We're primarily going to focus on questions 103 to 121 of the larger catechism, which is the first 4 commandments. And 103 is which is the first commandment. And none of this is actually in the Westminster Confession of Faith. They don't have the Lord's Prayer or the 10 Commandments in the Westminster Confession of Faith. It's purely the catechisms have that. The first commandment is, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And question 104 is, what are the duties required in the first commandment? Now, one thing you find in the catechism is they will have a huge list of duties for each one of these, and they are pretty exhaustive on every aspect of this duty. So on this, okay, so these are the split up parts of the answer. The duties required in the first commandment are, so we got acknowledging of God to be the only true God, worship and glorifying Him, according to thinking, meditation, remembering, esteeming, honoring, adoring, choosing, loving, desiring, fearing. So they just throw all this all in every aspect of your mind. Believing in Him, hoping, delighting, rejoicing, being zealous for Him, calling upon Him, giving all praise and thanks, yielding all obedience and submission to Him with the whole man, and being careful in all things to please Him, and sorrowful when in anything He is offended, and walking humbly with Him. And I think this one right here, this being zealous for Him, there was another spot in the Westminster Confession of Faith that says of Christian liberty and conscience. Does anybody remember that part? I don't know if you were here.
No.
Where implicit faith, just blindly following God and just being zealous for God, is not what God wants. But that's not what this is saying. It's not saying just blindly follow God, strap a bomb to yourself and go blow up people, like Muslims, because blindly they follow their faith. But this just means to show due diligence, I would say, that your whole man is following God only. Now here's one of the long lists of what are the sins forbidden in the first commandment, and this is what I'm talking about. They just say, like, every little sin you can think of in there, what they consider a sin.
An atheist wouldn't like you.
Spill it out. Yeah,
Well,
so they got
neither would
atheism.
anyone who's lukewarm. I mean, if you look at atheism versus lukewarmness, I mean,
You know, this is worshiping more gods than one. The Roman Catholic Church lumps the second commandment and the first commandment together as the first commandment. And then they split, I think, coveting.
There's your argument against that, the word zeal, over there on the right side.
indiscreet, that's a good word.
Yeah.
Indiscreet zeal.
Yeah.
And that would be
You
something
were
talking-
like you would see
You
in
know what I'm
ISIS.
saying? You were talking about the...
Yeah, good point.
Goes against liberty of conscience,
Right.
not following God genuinely, but you're just doing it because
Yeah.
your religion tells you to.
Wow.
God doesn't want that either.
Hmm.
But not having and a vouching for Him. So that'd be like
Well, we
denying
don't-
Christ. Denying
Right,
God.
right.
False opinions and wicked thoughts of Him. Ignorance, wow. Okay. Bold and curious, searching into His secrets. It's hard to explain. I don't want to say science because it's not necessarily talking about
Yeah.
science, but it's referring to those people of science who are trying to search for things like out in
They're
space,
trying to
and
prove a hypothesis.
they're trying
What does it say?
to
That's-
they're doing all this stuff searching into things that you can't even
The
know.
secret things
We
belong
watched,
to the Lord our God, but
Yep.
the things revealed belong to us.
Yes.
In other words, to us and the children forever. And we may follow all the words of this law. So what this is saying is God, whatever God reveals to us
Right.
belongs to us. Anything not revealed,
Well, it's like they're trying to go fly to some nebula out in space somewhere and see if God is out there or aliens or whatever, and their whole life is built on that. Their whole science and everything is just constructed around, and like, it's so far away, and like, you never fly there, not in our lifetime, and it's like completely a waste of. So this one includes this worship of saints or praying to saints, and they're including that here. And then they're consulting with the devil, hard to do suggestions. I think I would include going to seances and taking the advice of the dead would fall under this too.
Fortune tellers.
Yeah, well,
horoscopes.
yeah, like Nostradamus,
Yeah.
with reading the stars and follow that because they're God. Or I don't know what that is. It's not atheism, right? What do you call that when you interpret the stars? And that's what you follow.
Richard.
Angelology?
Divination.
Yeah. But like astrologers, they're
That
not,
same thing.
they're not atheists, right? I guess you gotta look that
What
up.
are the people that throw bones and then they
Voodoo.
get bones, they're supposed to fix that?
Voodoo.
Who?
Voodoo.
Voodoo?
Voodoo, yeah. They do that and chop off chicken heads and all that kind
Yeah,
of
they're supposed to tell them.
Make me hungry.
stuff. Not that kind.
All right, question 106. What are we specially taught by these words before me in the first commandment? These words before me or before my face in the first commandment teaches us that God, who sees all things, takes special notice of and is much displeased with the sin of having any other God. And here I put a verse finally. I'd much rather read Bible verses. If we had forgotten the name of our God, or extended our hands to a strange God, would not God find us out? For he knows the secrets of the heart. Psalms 44, 20 to 21. And then that it may be an argument to dissuade from it and to aggravate it as a most impudent provocation, as to persuade us to do as in his sight whatever we do in his service.
That is so wordy.
So basically, everything we do, the reason why they put, or the reason why the commandment says before me, or before my face, is to persuade us to do it as in his sight. To dissuade us from doing it as if God doesn't notice, or God's not around, like God's far off in outer space somewhere, and he's nowhere around, and we can do whatever we want. As for you, my son Solomon, know that God, the God of your father, and serve him with a whole heart and a willing mind, for the Lord searches all hearts and understands every intent and thoughts. If you seek him, he will let you find him, but if you forsake him, he will reject you forever. 1 Chronicles 28. All right, question 107. What is the second commandment? The second commandment is, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. That's the other thing I wanted to bring in, which I didn't, was the comparison between the Ten Commandments and the Presbyterian and the Protestant churches and the Roman Catholic Church, because they combine this with the first commandment and then separate the coveting one into two. Which is
Oh, yeah,
interesting.
well, how do they do that? Thou shalt not cover thy, how do they separate it?
I know, I wanted to bring that in, but I think I don't have it with me. me, but it's, one is thou shalt not covet your neighbor's goods, and the other one's don't covet your neighbor's wife.
Yeah.
I think they separated right
So they
there.
have more than 10 commandments then?
No,
they
they
just
combined,
added one.
they combined this with
Oh.
one.
Oh, okay.
So what's a graven image?
What is the what?
A
Like,
graven
when
image.
you carve something,
Okay.
engrave,
Like
An
a,
idol.
like, you know, the gods they used to carry with them out of the,
I don't know. I'm just
The icons, the,
no.
iconoclasts.
that's the
Anybody heard of that?
No.
Iconoclasm? Anybody?
what was that what the Roman Catholic Church was selling indulgences for?
No, it was back in, okay, there was 7 ecumenical councils, and in these councils, they ended in 700 something,
Oh,
and
yes.
one of them, they talked about getting rid of idols out of the church, because in the beginning of the church, people didn't have, you know, Mary statues and Jesus statues on the cross and all that. And those crept into the church over some time, and the iconoclasts were those who were against
Oh,
those in the church, and they're trying to get rid of that ever since, for years. It's like always been a problem, actually, in the Christian church.
it shouldn't be.
All right, so what are the duties? The
We don't wanna
duties
go there.
required in the second commandment, and all of these always have these big old lists of things that if you do them, you're breaking it. The duties in the second commandment is the receiving, observing, and keeping pure and entire all such religious worships and ordinances as God hath instituted in his word, particularly with prayer, reading and preaching and hearing the word, the sacraments, church government, the ministry, fasting, swearing, and vowing into his name. Is also disproving, detesting, and opposing all false worship, and according to each one's place and calling, removing it, and all monuments of idolatry. So this is iconoclasm. Back, they would go into the churches and remove the statues and break them, and that's what the iconoclast means, break the icon. So the Puritans or the Reformed people would be iconoclasts, which is the technical. The sins forbidden in the second commandment. Now, this is the long list that I was referring to that they like to throw in here. All devising, counseling, commanding, using, in any wise approving any religious worship not instituted by God. So that pretty much covers it. I'm surprised they didn't put thinking in there too, but don't even think about it. The making and representation, any representation of God, of all or any of the 3 persons, either inwardly in our mind or outwardly in any kind of image or likeness of any creature whatsoever, all worshiping of it, or God in it or by it. Okay, so there's the mind. Even in your mind, they'll like throw every aspect of everything you can imagine into here.
Now, we do have representations of Jesus, in pictures,
Right.
of him in pictures, that, again, we worship him, we don't worship the picture of him. So, it says, make a representation of God of any, or of all or any of the 3 persons. Well, we don't know what God looks like. We don't know what the Holy
Right.
Spirit looks like, because God is Spirit and the Holy Spirit. But Jesus was a person, and not that those pictures depict exactly what he looked like, but it is, we do have representations
Well,
of him.
this is why I like our church particularly, because if you go in our worship area, it's white walls, it's very Calvinistic, because like John Calvin and the Reformers, they would just have white walls and nothing, literally nothing in there. And if you look at, like, say, you go to Williamsburg, there's the original Presbyterian little church in there, it's like just 4 walls with windows, that's it. And so that's because of this. I don't know if our church is because of this, I would imagine, I would hope so, but
Are you talking as opposed to stained glass windows? Is that what you mean?
as opposed to anything,
Okay.
I mean, we have a cross and 2 flags, that's probably,
Well, we used to have banners along the side, some banners that were,
we have like that IHS thing that flops on the podium.
yeah,
That's about it.
but no, we used to have banners on the wall that were made out of felt, you know, and there were
Oh, really?
representation things, yes, yes.
Last summer, we were on a trip, and part of it was to Scotland, and we went to St. Giles Cathedral in kind of in the heart of Edinburgh. And I guess the Presbyterian Church originated, or John
John Knox.
Knox preached and that kind of thing. And that was very ornate. I mean, if you didn't know, you'd think you were in a Catholic cathedral.
Yeah, he probably was
Yeah.
at one time.
In fact, we walked by it because we were thinking, oh, the Presbyterian Church wouldn't look like a Catholic cathedral, but sure enough, it is.
Of course, you know, then you know, the
They're all
style,
Catholics at one time, and then he
That's-
came and marched in and
and there were style,
put us in.
there was architectural style at the time too, you know,
Mhm.
that's why they built churches, you know,
Yeah,
so,
well, the Calvinists, like in Geneva, if you look at the word, I don't know if it's still there, it probably got destroyed by some bomb, I don't know. But the building that John Calvin taught in was all white walls, and all the Presbyterians typically afterwards would just have white walls, or not just Presbyterians, but I guess more congregational and,
Methodist thing.
yeah, well, Methodists came after, Independence. All right, so making any representation of foreign deities and all worship of them, all superstitious devices, whether invented or taken up of ourselves or received by tradition of others. I mean, that,
no Ouija boards.
I guess they might throw in rosaries,
Get rid of the iPhones,
The what?
the iPhones.
get rid of Facebook. I don't know.
Get rid of lapel pins, get rid of all jewelry.
Even though under the title of antiquity, custom, devotion, good intent, or any other
that's not
pretense
really
whatsoever.
superstitious, so.
Get rid of
You guys seen those cards that have like a Saint Joseph or a saint on them?
Mhm.
So that's,
St. Christopher, you find stuff and,
right,
yeah.
or rosary beads. Well, a lot of people that are Roman Catholic that use rosary beads think the beads themselves have some kind of holiness to them too.
Right.
It's funny because the rosary is,
Right.
if you remove the Hail Mary or whatever we call it, if you remove that from it, that's what our church does. We do the rosary for our service, basically.
So we remove certain things, but.
We don't have the Hail Mary.
We don't do 10 Our Fathers.
Right,
3
we do
Hail
just
Marys.
one of each. You know, we
And
do
then
one.
the act of contrition in the silent little piece, and then go around with 5 Our Fathers and a Hail Mary, 5 Our, we don't,
Yeah, we don't do
we are
that.
not doing the same thing that they do.
But the rosary consists of the Gloria Patri, the Apostles' Creed, the Lord's Prayer, and
Yeah.
the Hail Mary is that's what they do for the rosary.
Yep.
Which is what our service is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, they're throwing this in as idolatry. They have a list of, I mean, if you look at the rock on the floor, you thought in your mind, and transgress this commandment. They're pretty strict, you know. I don't think necessarily having a rosary is, I mean, I guess it could be superstitious though.
I think the point is, some people look at that rosary as the only way to pray
Yeah, the
to
key.
God.
yes, I
Well, the
agree.
key-
And yeah, that is it. You know, there is no
Yeah.
other.
But then believe it though, I mean, but have lived it and lived nothing else, so.
Yeah, the key is the worshiping of them, and
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I think that's the key to this commandment.
Even as holy as the Ark of the Covenant was, God, you know, said, you're not, just because you have this, doesn't mean that things are gonna go your way. If you're disobedient to me, this is not a good luck charm. So again, it's the emphasis that you put on, you know, it was a very holy thing, and it was to be handled certain ways. But
They always have the both sides too. This is the devising, commanding, using, and then there's the neglect, which is this is the want of conformity. No, this is the transgression of and the want of conformity to. You always have that want of conformity and transgression of within each one of these commandments.
Oh, what's simony? What's Simon, the first
Simony?
The Act of Selling Church, the practice is named after Simon Magus, who is described in the Acts of the Apostles as having
Yes.
offered 2 disciples of Jesus, Peter and John, payment in exchange for their empowering him to impart the power of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the reasons annexed to the second commandment? And more to enforce it. Okay, so that's this part, the second part of the commandment. For I, the Lord, thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy on the thousands that love me and keep my commandments. It's added to the commandment to
Right.
enforce it, meaning God is going to punish the iniquity upon the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate, which is probably a good explanation of what our country is going through right now
Yep.
because of the atheism and all the other stuff in the 1900s, early 1900s. It's pretty much
Well,
destroyed this country.
what exactly do you think that means, that he's going to visit the iniquity of the fathers upon the 3rd and 4th generation of them?
That, I think it means, are you asking me? Or?
Yeah.
It means the generations of people who have done evil in God's eyes, the 3rd and 4th generation, are going to continue to pay for what they did then. So, for example, teaching evolution in school and atheism and removing the 10 Commandments off the lawn of the court and all those decisions, to recover from that as a society, it's going to take many generations to fix that we're going to continue to pay because, for example, when children go to school now, they're learning the whole evolution chart, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if any of you believe in evolution, I don't, but that teaching is now in the child, and they grow up with that teaching, bringing their children teaching that, and it's going to take a long time in order to correct an entire society of that thinking, because in order to remove that thinking, it takes so much proofs and argumentation and on the Christian church's side to convince and to, I'd say, apologetics, the defense of the Christian faith. We're constantly having to defend and raise people up to defend against it in order to get rid of it out of society.
And I agree with that, but I think that he's not hating the 3rd and 4th generation just because they're related to that person. What he's saying is, what happens is, as parents, and we're in that, we teach our kids the same, and they teach their kids the same, and so they're still evil. We're propagating evil.
Right.
But say that somebody was born and then reborn under him, that hate would not be, visited upon them. It would be, it's only, do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's the kids that.
Well, they become
Which question?
a part of the thousands
Yes.
that love him and
Right.
keep his commandments.
Yes.
I mean, I think that this is, people say, well, why did God allow the Jews to come in and slaughter, and told them to go slaughter all the Canaanites and everything. The Canaanites were the children,
The
they were
fathers
iniquity,
that were iniquitous.
they were godless
Right.
of the true God.
Godless.
They were godless.
And then those people had to go generations after they're being destroyed. It's like a better or a more pertinent example to Israel would be when Babylon came and destroyed the temple and took the Israelites into captivity in Babylon. Is everybody familiar with that? It's because the people in Israel were evil and they had idolatry, very things.
Right.
And so God sent Babylon to destroy his own people. So it's like, it's
But
not like
save
He
the
used
remnant.
Babylon. He used Babylon to do that.
Absolutely, and then he punished Babylon.
those people had to be, those people
But
Israel was in ruins, and those people were starving in the street in Israel. And then the people that were taken into Babylon were slaves. And then they had to wait for,
70 years.
7 years Jubilee.
right, and then they had to wait for the Persians to come and kill the Babylonians. Then they had to deal with the Persians, and then Darius
Cyrus,
released them, or
Cyrus, yeah.
released them. And then they went back to their land, and then they went through the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then it's like all those years of trying to rebuild their temple and do all that just from what happened in Babylon. So that's third and fourth generation.
And the thing is, God's word and his command never changes, so therefore, like you were saying, this is why our country is going through what it is
Oh,
now.
my goodness, no kidding.
Because
Yeah.
he's visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children.
So besides God's sovereignty over us and propriety in us, his fervent zeal for his own worship, his revengeful indignation against all false worship as being a spiritual whoredom. I love the vocabulary in this.
Spiritual whoredom.
Spiritual whoredom.
It just,
That's like a heavy metal band, you know?
well,
Spiritual whoredom!
which one is it, the prophet, not Joel, what's the one that, Gomer,
Yes.
Married. He was commanded to marry Gomer the whore because it showed the,
Relationship between
Was that Jeremiah?
Israel and
no,
God.
not Jeremiah.
No.
No, it's, isn't that awful?
I thought it was Jeremiah that.
Hosea.
No.
Was it
Hosea
Hosea.
married Gomer, and it was to show the
It was
relationship.
the
She was a
illustration of the
prostitute.
relationship of Israel prostituting themselves.
Yes.
I thought that was Jeremiah.
No. Jeremiah was the weeping prophet. No, it was Hosea.
Just checking.
Counting the breakers of this commandment, such as hate him and threaten to punish them under diverse generations, and such as love him, promise mercy to them under many generations. So mercy for those who keep it, and punishment against those who break it. Specifically idolatry. They don't put this after thou shalt not commit adultery. This comes after idolatry. So, as adultery is horrible, of course, but this is obviously more horrible. The third
Paul's talking
commandment
like a politician.
ties
Says two
totally
things.
into the first two, because the reason why I say the third commandment ties into the first two
I
is
know what you're
because
saying.
most people think well, the third commandment is thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain.
Right.
The Lord will not hold him guiltless that take his name in vain. People try to say that this is saying God or using God's name in the verbal.
Or
Right.
GD
But this is
or whatever.
this is actually talking about worshiping God when you actually don't believe in God, or you're worshiping a false God, or that's what taking the Lord's name in vain is. Because there's people that go to church.
Or wishing something wrong.
You're
with
using it
God's
as
name.
a leverage for your own benefit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like people go to church.
We do that.
People go to church
We do
and
that.
they don't even believe in God. They're
We
there
do.
trying to sell people stuff.
That's our iniquities.
You know. And
I'm
that's-
saying we shouldn't do it, we shouldn't, but we do. I think we do.
We do what?
See, they say right here, the name
We
of
say
God,
things.
His titles,
Or we
attributes,
think.
ordinances, the word, sacraments, prayer, oaths, vows, lots, His works, and whatsoever else there is whereby He makes Himself known, be holy and reverently used. So they're talking about just the use of His name.
Oh, and how many people use, Jesus as a swear word?
That too, yeah.
It just,
But like, I don't know, I'm
It's
just
so
gonna pick on
common
Joel
now.
Osteen here.
Yeah.
Like Joel Osteen, he's going up there and using God's name
for his,
for a monetary profit, really.
Yes.
And
I think that's what Paul was saying, to use it for,
that's
We do,
similar.
yeah, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just
That's
saying
very
we do
doctrinal.
that. We,
it's using God's name in vain.
Look how many people,
Just
though,
thought-
really saying, fall into that
I mean,
trap
look at all
and
the
think
idols.
that that is
Look
the
at all
acceptable way of the
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
That's what Paul is saying.
Things that were created, I mean, you think about it, 'cause, I don't know.
So you're saying in thought, meditation, word, writing, any holy profession, answerable conversation to the glory of God and the good of ourselves and others. So writing and thought. So like when someone writes some blasphemous or makes a video like a zeitgeist. Has anybody seen Zeitgeist?
Never heard of it.
Never
What is it?
Watch that movie. You'll be
Zeit?
like,
Zeit means time in German, doesn't it?
yeah,
Zeal?
ghost. Geist is ghost. Ghost of time,
Oh,
basically. Zeitgeist.
Well, I think the life of Brian was an example.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't watch it because I refused to, but my understanding was it was very,
Mocking God, like
Yeah.
Like,
Monty Python.
Richard Dawkins going up there, going point by point over the Ten Commandments, saying how useless it is. Stuff like that. That's taking the Lord's name in vain.
And to him, it probably is
You can do
useless
that.
because he's not chosen to see the word.
That's using the Lord's name in vain. See, I don't, this says, where's my pointer?
Yes.
That says take the name of the Lord in vain. It doesn't say use the Lord's name in vain. You see what I'm saying? That's why I agree with this, of course. This is absolutely. But I think it's missing the take. Like you're taking the Lord's name as this is, I am for the Lord, but it's in vain. You know?
Let me see.
I'd say Joel Osteen
Let me
fixed
see what
this.
the NIV says. I don't know if it says, I know.
That's the King James Version.
It's taken, yeah, that shall not take. Let's see what.
The Lord will not hold him guilty.
You
it's,
shall not take, in the NASB, the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain.
What was it? Exodus 27?
Thou shalt not take.
Oh, no,
The Lord
no,
will not
oh,
hold him
I'm in Genesis.
That's it. You're not gonna find that.
No. Let me see. Now, mine says, this is NIV, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God.
yeah, I took that in terms of the
Misuse.
electronic.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you
Non-stop.
take them in vain, that must be using, you know, if you take something in vain, that's misusing.
This says to lift, carry. Accept, let's see, bear. To bear it.
To bear the like, yeah.
It's
So
not, it's not using like speaking or it's talking about
Yeah, well, the word bear can
to
be.
sustain, to endure, to support, to carry, to bear,
yeah,
to lift oneself up,
well, that can be
to
misused.
carry.
Yeah, in modern
It
days,
means
I
all
take that
of
to mean like the mega church pastors that use God's name, praising God, what is their real, motive? And that kind of thing, to, live in these $20 million mansions.
Exactly,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what this is talking about.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Is what you're
I agree,
saying.
I agree.
Like Joel Osteen going up there and he doesn't care if he's being accurate to the Word of God. He's just caring whether or not the person he's talking to
Feels good.
feels good,
and
likes
gets
him,
money.
and
Yeah.
puts money in his
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
so they can. It's not that I hate Joel Osteen or anything. It's just
Just
that
hate
I find
what he's preaching.
what he's doing is completely destroying Christianity. That's all.
Well, how many of these
How many
prosperity,
followers does he have?
or how many of
Must
these
be right.
prosperity preachers have fallen and given the black eye to, to the
Everybody but
Christianity?
him so far, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, you get the Jerry Paul, not Jerry Paul, I'm
The
sorry.
Swaggart,
Swaggart, Jimmy Swaggart,
the
and
Baker.
yeah, yeah,
Tammy Faye.
yeah,
The list goes on.
yeah.
Just TBN.
And got
Turn on
rich.
TBN.
And got rich over, that.
Now, Dr. Jeremiah, he's on there, but I like him.
So is
And
Charles Stanley.
I like
He's
him.
on
Yes,
there. I
yes.
like
But
him.
Charles Stanley, he
I like
cheated
John
on his
Baker.
wife, and
Mhm.
Charles Stanley?
yeah, he should
Am I
have.
thinking of the right one?
Charles Stanley should have been removed from the pulpit
Am I thinking of?
20 years ago. I know a lot of what he says is
Or
good.
is it another one?
I thought Jimmy Swaggart cheated on his wife.
Yeah,
but-
and so did Jerry, the other one.
Jim Baker.
Yeah,
Jim
yeah. But,
Jim Baker's still on TV somewhere, isn't he?
is.
Is he?
Did Tammy die?
Uh-huh, she died of cancer.
The sins
I
forbidden.
remember she's crying.
I think they were divorced.
Yeah, they did divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did divorce.
And
I
Yeah,
think she remarried, I believe.
I can't for.
She divorced
That's
him
a
when he
visual,
went
isn't
to
it?
jail and she
The
married
makeup
him.
coming out, she's crying.
Yeah.
Years and years and years and years ago, my wife used to take our kids over to Janus Shopping Center,
Yeah,
and they would be there handing out milk to kids.
really?
Yeah.
That's good.
It was a long time, 45 years ago. 40.
All right, what are the sins forbidden in the third commandment? Here's another long list. Throw out there. Not using God's name is required. The abuse of it, ignorant, vain, irreverent, profane, superstitious, wicked. Using his titles, attributes, ordinances, works by blasphemy, perjury, sinful cursings, oaths, vows, lots. That pretty much, they're pretty exhaustive on these lists.
And even the O and G.
Violating the oaths.
I'm sorry. So many times, there's, so many things, it's OMG.
Yeah. Oh, gee. That could be gosh.
Well, that's what I prefer, but
I
it's,
say.
but a lot of people still say, well, that's really thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Violating oaths and vows. Let's soak that one in for a minute. Divorce. I guess that's taking the Lord's name in vain, right? If you get a divorce,
That's on the reason.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Well, yeah, infidelity was one of the Mosaic laws that said that it was lawful
Right.
to divorce.
Well, that
If
may-
lawful, like throw that in.
Yeah,
And
well, a
fulfilling
man could divorce his wife, but a wife cannot divorce her husband.
Yeah, but there was something about infidelity.
But there again,
Murmurings and quarreling. Curious prying into and misapplying of God's decrees and providences. That's a good one. Stuff like that.
Oh, misapplying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like misapplying God's decrees and providences. There is a video that this my friend's daughter shared of this anti-abortionist and abortionist. The abortionist was asking the anti-abortionist if he thought it was God's will that a woman was raped. Is it God's will that a woman was raped? And the anti-abortionist guy was like, well, God's sovereign, and he was using the God's, if a woman is raped, it's God's will, because if God didn't want it to happen, God would have stopped it. Okay, so all things are God's will, all things happen because God ordained it,
No,
and
it's
God is
man's
sovereign.
will. Man has a free will.
But whether or not, because God allowed, ordained, or whatever the rape to occur, he was using that as a reason why a woman cannot get an abortion because it's God's will that the rape occurred. And so so I'm like reading that going, okay, well, or listening to it going, okay, well, sure, if a woman's raped, God would have stopped it if God didn't want it to happen, and all things happen for the good of those who love God, and all things happen to God's glory. But then that would also apply to a woman who gets an abortion. If she gets an abortion, that would have been God's will too, because if God didn't want her to get an abortion, he would have stopped that too. So that is an example of misapplying God's decrees and providences. You see what I'm saying?
That's why some people incorrectly, outside of the Presbyterian religion, have a lot of criticism about Presbyterianism, the whole thing about predestination. Like that, they feel like things like that they're already programmed. They're programmed by God. They're going to happen. Genocide, things like that.
But I mean, my answer to that is, if God does not have control over everything, then there is no God. That's my answer. I mean, clearly, if God is God, he would be able to stop and do whatever he wants. So if God doesn't stop it, or what am I going to say? Like you have the atheist go, I prayed to God to ask for my mom to not die. And my mom died, therefore God didn't answer my prayer, therefore there's no God. It's like, well, first of all, everybody dies. So to ask God to not stop death on something, God already said, wages of sin is death, and we're all going to die. So it's like you're asking God of something that he said he wasn't going to do in the first place. So if we can't accept what God does, and what God says, and what happens, that's, I guess this would be taking the Lord's name in vain, right? I mean, if I say, oh, I believe in God, but I can't accept anything he does in my life, well, then why am I following God? I mean,
There's a difference between knowing there's a God and accepting the reality that God is totally God.
yeah,
He runs the whole world, it's his.
exactly. Okay, so misinterpreting, misapplying, or any way perverting the word, profane jests, that's the life of Brian, it's a profane jest. Or maintaining false doctrines, abusing it, anything, abusing creatures or anything contained under the name of God, to charms or sinful lusts and practices. The maligning, scorning, reviling, or anywise opposing of God's truth, grace, and ways, making profession of religion in hypocrisy or for sinister ends. So they did include that here, which is the whole, like Joel Osteen,
Yeah.
having a ministry just because you want to make money, or you're a hypocrite, or being ashamed or shamed to it by uncomfortable, unwise, unfruitful, or offensive walking or backsliding from it. So that's the guy who says, I think, remember the graph where we're talking about there's the first conversion and then the second conversion, and there's the carnal Christian and then the enlightened Christian or whatever. I had a graph showing that. Anyway, that's what this is referring to, where people, they go up and pray a prayer and accept Jesus. Oh, now I'm a Christian, but they're still living their lives completely not like a Christian. That's what this is referring to. Still on the third commandment. What reasons are annexed to the third commandment? Added to the Lord thy God, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Because he is the Lord and our God, before his name is not to be profaned in any way of these violence. He will be so far from acquitted and sparing the transgressors of his commandment, as that he will not suffer them to escape his righteous judgment. Albeit many such escape the censures and punishment of men. So, basically this is saying, if you take the Lord's name in vain, God will judge you. I believe this is talking about in this world, not necessarily after death. Like they may escape punishments like Joel Osteen, who's going to be the poster child, I guess, for this one. Might be rich and not be prosecuted by the government or anything, but he will be punished in other ways. Like Tammy Faye Baker, I guess, is a good example. She ended up getting a divorce and then dying of cancer, stuff like that. God, I'm not saying that she's a bad person or anything, and that she went to hell. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying a lot of what they did was taking the Lord's name in vain. We're on question 115 of the larger catechism. And all this section pretty much is not found in the Westminster Confession of Faith, so we're just going to get catechism questions here. But which is the fourth commandment? And I put first-day Sabbatarianism because the people who wrote, the Puritans who wrote this, were first-day Sabbatarian, which meant they believed that the Sabbath was on the first day, not the seventh day, that it changed. And we'll see that as we go. But the fourth commandment is, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God, in that thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth and the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. That's Exodus 28 to 11. So what is required in the fourth commandment? The fourth commandment requireth of all men the sanctifying or keeping holy to God such set times as he hath appointed in his word, expressly one whole day in 7, which was the 7th from the beginning of the world to the resurrection of Christ, the first day of the week ever since, and so to continue to the end of the world, which is the Christian Sabbath, and in the New Testament called the Lord's Day. So this right here is the fundamental main statement of first-day Sabbatarianism, which is saying that the first day of the week is now the Sabbath, called the Christian Sabbath, according to that. Anybody have any comments on that? Your questions?
Some of that today is obviously not the way we practice. Hospitals are open, fire engines run, police are on duty.
Well, if you notice right here, the only Revelation 1:10, anybody want to bust that one open?
Okay.
That's where, that's their best effort in trying to say that this is from the Bible.
Would you say Revelation 1:10?
Yeah.
Revelation. 1:10. On the Lord's day, I came in the Spirit, and I heard with a loud voice the trump, write on the scroll, and send it to the seven. Okay. You said one?
That says nothing about the Sabbath being on the first day.
Okay.
That just says it's the Lord's Day.
Right, the Lord's Day.
But
A lot
I
of
don't
people.
have it in this book. It's my other book I was writing, but I can go into this one in a minute. But yeah, the first day being the Christian Sabbath is, it's not found in the Bible anywhere. And nowhere does it say that the Sabbath is the first day. So this is probably the biggest, like this didn't come into existence until this was written. Nobody in the Christian church taught this prior to this.
Okay.
If you look in, that's why I gave everybody this book that I wrote to that Seventh-day Adventist pastor. If anybody read it in here, I think end of it, I put a bunch of early church father quotes, which are really good because they show you what the early church taught
Sure.
at the time. And they said that, in these quotes you'll find, they say the Sabbath was no longer done, and that the first day of the week is the Lord's Day, but that they're two different things completely. The Sabbath and the Lord's Day aren't the same day. They're not the same thing. And the Seventh-day Adventist Church, there's an Ellen White quote in here, but this guy in this video, I forgot his name. What's this guy's name? I forgot. Oh, Batchelor. Doug Batchelor. He has a whole video on it. If you go online and watch his video, he's trying to say that Constantine in 312 or something around there changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday in some proclamation. And that's why I have it written. And basically Constantine made Sunday a day similar to the Jewish Sabbath, where nobody was supposed to work and open their businesses and stuff, but it had nothing to do with Christianity. It was like because there was a lot of pagans in Rome, so it was for pagans and Christians together, because Christians were worshiping on the first day. But for the most part, Christians have taught that the Sabbath was done away with, and that was, hold on, let me find that. I gotta look it up in my...
done away with?
Yeah. Let me find it really quick. If you read those early church quotes,
So is Monday the first day? Maybe, for us?
yeah, Sunday's the first day.
Sunday's the first day.
Colossians 2:16.
So the seventh day is Saturday.
2:16.
What? It said something about he worked the first 6 days, and then the seventh day he didn't work, so he was holy, so.
Yeah.
You think it wouldn't be, you think Monday would be the first day?
Well,
Yeah.
that, you're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about a work week.
I'm just, I mean, I'm trying to get it in
Well,
relationship to what I'm doing.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, those, all that's from astrology. It's not,
That 2:16,
Oh.
yeah, Colossians.
therefore, no one is to act as your judge in regard to food or drink, or in respect to a festival, or a new moon, or a Sabbath day.
Right. Things which were a mere shadow of what is to come, but the substance belongs to Christ. So how the Christian church has always really explained this is that Jesus Christ, which is basically what this first one here is saying, is that Jesus' death and resurrection is a fulfillment of that. The shadow of what is to come was those Old Testament festivals and new moons and sacrifices and all that. We're looking forward to Christ and what he was going to do, and that's what this is saying. But on the Seventh-day Adventist book I gave you guys, I have a chart in here because they try to say in Leviticus, who knows what the report before? Leviticus 23. Anybody want to flip to that?
23 what?
The whole chapter. Because
The laws of religious festivals?
yeah, basically, the Seventh-day Adventists are saying we're supposed to keep the Sabbath because of Leviticus 23.
It's 44 verses.
Yeah, we're not going to read the whole thing.
Mhm.
We're just going to skim over it. And 23:3.
23:3.
Says, for 6 days work may be done, but on the seventh day there is a Sabbath of complete rest, a holy convocation. You shall not do any work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord in all your dwellings.
And so right there it says the holy convocation. That's like the congregation comes together. And so he's trying to say that because the Sabbath is a holy convocation where all the people come together, that's what we should be doing on Saturday, and that's why Christian worship should happen on this day. But if you read like Leviticus 23:5, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month at twilight is the Lord's Passover. Okay, and then on Leviticus 23:6-7, it's on the 15th day of the same month, there's a feast of unleavened bread to the Lord. 7th day you shall eat unleavened bread. The first day you shall have a holy convocation and shall not do any laborious work. So there, this is the first day, don't do it. Right? And 23:8, 7th day shall be an offering by fire. 23:9-14, it's talking about the wave sheaf offering. And then 23:15-22 is talking about the Feast of First Fruits. And then 23-25 is the Feast of Trumpets. And then 26-32 is the Day of Atonement. And then 23-36, 39-42 is
Booths or something?
Tabernacle of Booths. And then the 23-36-39 is the last great day. And all these are the feasts and festivals This is what Paul's talking about in Colossians 2. And what I told the Seventh-day Adventist pastor, I said, okay, well, if you're going to say that Leviticus 23:3 applies to the Christian church, and we're supposed to have worship on Saturday according to this, then why aren't you doing the unleavened bread, the wave sheaf, the first fruits? You got to be doing the rest of it. You can't just pick and choose which things I want to do out of here, and then say I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to do the rest of it. So,
I get totally confused by what day of the week it was if I went by this.
well, that's because they're going by a lunar calendar, and we're going by a solar calendar now. So, I mean, this would make sense if we didn't have that calendar. If we didn't have our calendar we have today, this would make sense. But, so, in regards to this part, I think actually, my personal opinion is both of these are wrong. That we are still supposed to keep the fourth commandment, Sabbath, and we're supposed to have a Christian day of worship, but that Christian day of worship can be any day of the week. It's not like you can only worship on Sunday and then you can't go to church any other day. So, I mean, the first day is where boom, we're all going to get together that day. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you want to, boom, I want to get all together on Saturday, like the Seventh-day Adventists, there's nothing wrong with that either. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Right,
Or if they want to do it on Wednesday or any time of the week.
Right.
So, and as far as this one, as the Christian Sabbath, church on Sunday is supposed to be like the communion of the saints, where we do the sacraments of the Lord's Supper and all that. All that is work. I mean, the actual Lord's Supper, Jesus was up there saying, "This is my body," and they actually ate together. They prepared food, they ate together, and it was in the early church. If you look at, I think we were talking about simony last week, where the guy wanted to buy, Simon wanted to buy the gift of the Holy Spirit, or Ananias and Sapphira. They didn't give all their money that they said that they were going to.
Yes.
And so there was, because that's what the Christian worship was. We come in with our gifts. We feed each other. We come in, you need clothing. We clothe each other. And all that is work. That is not the same thing as
Worship.
right.
It is not the same thing.
And although that is part of it, where we give our gifts and offerings and stuff, that's what we do, and that's what we're supposed to do on Sunday. It's like feeding the JCOC is actually what we're supposed to be doing on Sunday and on
Every day.
That's the communion that we're supposed to be doing, which is a work. Cooking all that and serving people is work. So the Christian worship, is a work. It's not a Sabbath where you just, it's Sunday, I'm not going to do anything. No, that's not what.
I'd love to have a day like that.
Right. But this one is not where it says, because Jesus came, the Sabbath is no longer observed, is referring to Leviticus 23, the festivals and stuff like that. But this, where am I thinking of? Sorry, I lost my PowerPoint. This up here, the actual commandment, if you read this commandment, nowhere in here does it talk about worshiping God. None of this is about worshiping God. It's about how you treat your employees, your siblings, your animals, your land, your everything is how you're treating other people and yourself. You're supposed to rest yourself. You shouldn't be working 7 days a week, 14 days a week, or 14 days straight, or you should take a day off. The land, what do you call that when
Needs a
they,
rest and
Yeah.
they leave it,
they fallow? They rotate
they
the
give it
land.
rest every 7 years or whatever.
Cultivate
Right.
the land.
Oh, they would rotate it, like they have 3 plots of land.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
yeah.
called crop rotation.
Yeah, and then
Oh.
one they leave fallow, and that's just a basic, this is a what's set in stone of the universe, of the way things work. You cannot work the land every year,
Can't work 24/7.
not naturally unless you go like do some kind of weird science thing, which there's always a repercussion to the science. GMOs and all the stuff that they try to do to continue.
War.
Right, it's like,
7 days a week, 20.
sure, people probably can do this. People probably could work every day a week constantly for the rest of their life, but it's gonna impact their family, it's gonna impact their friends, it's gonna impact themselves, their own health. So,
Well, I cheated and looked at my concordance here, and Jesus answered that also in Mark 2:23 through 28, when he was talking about the disciples were picking the grain, and the Sadducees or Pharisees came up and said, look, you're doing work on the Sabbath, and don't you know that's unlawful? And Jesus answered, have you ever read about David when he and his companions were hungry and in need in the days of Abiathar and the high priest? He entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, which is lawful only for the priest to eat, and he also gave some to his companions. And in verse 27, then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Said the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath.
right,
So, and then he went on, and he also healed the man with the shriveled hand. And he still had the, it's finding what the Sabbath is and what you were saying, it is how we treat others.
and that is such a perfect
And that is a
verse.
worship to God.
That is to me, that verse is the clincher, that
Yes.
would actually just like, how do you argue with it? Because as we're studying the commandments, the first 4 are supposed to be our duty to God, and the last 6 are supposed to be our duty to man. But when I study this, I'm finding out that this is not my duty to God, this is my duty to man. That's what I'm getting from it. I think the only part of this is hallowed it. Maybe it's the only part you can get that we're saying you should worship God on Sabbath. It's even talking about your cattle.
I mean, it goes down to the nth degree if you think about it.
That's what I'm saying, it's very exhaustive, somewhat exhaustive, of who this is directed towards.
Everything.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I said, it's twofold.
Well,
It's
it
not
gives,
just-
it gives the
it's
manservant and the maidservant a chance to worship. They're not
Sure.
working the cattle. It gives them a chance to set it aside.
And to
And
refresh
worship.
and renew. I mean, it
Yes.
was just.
Right. But I don't see where it says anything about worship though, except maybe you
The
get that out of the hallowed it,
Well,
but
yes, set it
He made it
aside. He
holy.
made it holy.
really the
Hallowed.
substance of this commandment is to not work. And if you look up all the
It
instances
says,
in the Old
remember the
Testament,
Sabbath day and keep
Keep
it
it
holy.
holy. Keep it
right, but
set
if you look up,
Set aside.
if you look up all the instances of the breaking of the Sabbath throughout the Old Testament, it's in reference to people working on that day and not worship, had nothing to do with worshiping. It's because they worked. Never is someone in trouble in the Old Testament for not worshiping God on Saturday or on the 7th day. They're in trouble for working on that day.
Actually, it's teaching us to follow the Lord's way because it says the Lord made the heaven and the earth and the sea, and then he rested.
Yeah.
So in that endeavor, we're supposed to follow God's way
Yeah.
and do our work 6 days a week and rest on the 7th, just as God did. Okay.
Can I move to the next slide?
Now,
I just really wanted to talk about this
we've
one.
exhausted that.
Okay. Okay, so how is the Sabbath or the Lord's Day to be sanctified? So the Sabbath or the Lord's Day, so everything's from now on, they're going to refer to the Sabbath as the Lord's Day. So, is to be sanctified by a holy resting all day, not only from such works as are at all times sinful, but even from such worldly employments and recreations as are on the other days lawful.
Recreation's okay.
Mhm.
Define that.
That puts
Really?
everything, I like that pretty much, employments and
Well,
recreations.
worldly employments, I mean,
What else do you do in life?
Recreation is, to me, would be to go out and have a good time and have fun. So you're saying, no, you can't do that either? Like,
Right, that's according to this.
Very, very few people would follow that.
Yeah, I break that every Sunday.
I'm,
And
Well,
Saturday.
and if you notice, there's all Old Testament
Old
there
Testament.
too. Where the intent was to have a day hollowed out for God. And, so that, not that he doesn't.
Again, though, I'm gonna say, if you look up these passages, they're not gonna support this. I'm just
They're
gonna,
not gonna support that?
no,
That's a good thing.
I'm just saying. Well, because, okay, let's look up.
Exodus 28.
Yeah, Exodus 28. Because this is seventh, or first day Sabbatarianism is like legalistic Jewish, where they're weighing, back then they weigh your shoes. If your shoes were too heavy, you were working on the Sabbath and you'd be thrown in stocks.
Oh, I know, it's stupid. You could walk 30 yards, but you couldn't walk 30.2 or whatever it was.
Right.
And I wouldn't know the difference.
And that's really,
But that was the Jewish law that they came
Yeah.
up, it wasn't God's law.
Right.
but that's what I'm trying to say. Is,
Yes,
and
yes.
I'm like, this is the
Oh,
one
we
section
already
of the
did.
Westminster and the larger catechism and stuff that I'm gonna have my most personal disagreement with, because I don't, anybody got 20 minutes?
We already did that one.
I have Jeremiah.
I got
Yeah,
Exodus 16.
I've got Jeremiah.
All right, do Exodus 16.
16:25.
Yeah.
All right. Eat it today, Moses said, because today is the Sabbath of the Lord. You will not find it on any of it on any other ground. 6 days you are to gather, but on the seventh day, the Sabbath, there will be not any.
That was the manna.
The manna, yeah.
So that's working to get food for work.
Working to
It's not a
get-
recreation. So what does Jeremiah say?
It says, thus, says the Lord, take heed for yourselves, and do not carry any load on the Sabbath day, or bring anything in through the gates of Jerusalem. You shall not bring a load out of your house on the Sabbath day, nor do any work, but keep the Sabbath day holy, as I commanded your forefathers.
So again, that one says work.
That's
doesn't say
work, yes,
recreations.
It doesn't say, yeah, I don't get that. Why would they put recreations up there?
I can tell you, I can go, I've done this already. I have another book I didn't bring with me of every instance of the word Sabbath and Sabbaths, and I try to find where it teaches anything like this, and it's talking about work. Nowhere does it say not work. This next one too, it's making it a delight to spend the whole time as much as to be necessary in the public and private exercise of God's worship. And if you look up these passages,
Nothing.
I'm telling you, go for it.
Matthew 12.
Matthew 12, 1 to
That's
5.
New Testament, so let's take a look at that.
So it's okay for me to sit on the couch and watch TV.
Basically.
Not when you're taking Karen on a picnic, it's not.
Except on Mother's Day.
Is that 1 Corinthians 16?
Yeah, it doesn't have much Corinthians in it.
Oh, yeah, it must, it is,
Matthew
it's either
12.
first or second. It's 4th Corinthians.
That's talking about collections in 1 Corinthians. It says, now concerning the collection for the saints, as I directed the church of Galatia, so do you also on the first day of every week.
Right.
Each one of you is put aside and save as he may prosper, so that no collections be made when I come.
In other words, he doesn't want to waste time with all their collections when he gets there. That's all I get from that.
Okay, Matthew 12, 1 through 5. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields of the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry and began to pick some.
Oh, that's the
seeds
one
of
you
grain.
just
What-
read, isn't it? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
No, I read from Mark.
Okay, when the Pharisees saw this, they said, look, your disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, haven't you read that what David did when he was hungry and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and he and his companion ate consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do, but only the priests. Or haven't you read the law, that on the Sabbath, the priests of the temple desecrated that day, and yet were innocent? I tell you here, one greater than the temple is here. If you had known what these words meant, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. For the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath. So that's where,
All I get is that might fit the accept so much of its
Yes.
taken up in works of necessity, but that doesn't say anything about in public and private exercise of God's worship.
I got this Isaiah passage.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, if you keep your feet from breaking the Sabbath and from doing as you please on my holy day, if you call the Sabbath a delight and the Lord's holy day honorable, and if you honor it by not going your own way and not doing as you please or speaking idle words, then you will find your joy in the Lord, and I will cause you to ride on the heights of the land and to feast on the inheritance of your father Jacob. The mouth of the Lord has spoken.
Okay, so that one might fit the recreations a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not about speaking.
Well, it said just, and do anything you want
Or
to.
doing.
you
And
know.
that might fit the recreations up here, maybe.
Interesting.
Did you already look at 1 Corinthians?
I did, 1 Corinthians, it just, did I already read that one? I did, 1 Corinthians, but Luke.
That Isaiah one that you just read?
Yeah.
Does not say anything about public and private exercise of worship.
Right.
Did we
You
read
could be
Luke
doing
4?
that at home, sitting on your couch, not speaking idle, and not saying anything about going to church or going to synagogue or going to a temple or anything.
And Luke 4:16 just says the disciples left, went into the city and found things just as Jesus had told them, so they prepared for the Passover. So in other words, what they're saying is you need to prepare to not do anything on that day.
Do as much as you can ahead.
That's
Yeah, do
because
it ahead of time.
the Jewish people, right, they had to prepare prior to and not
Oh, yeah.
according to their feasts and festivals and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But I think we already came to the determination that in Colossians 2, when
Yeah.
Paul was saying about the festivals and when all that is listed in Leviticus 23 was a looking towards what Christ was going to do, and it's not something we do anymore. We don't follow those laws now. So, if you all know where it says you're supposed to publicly and privately exercise God's worship on the Sabbath, you can find that other than where it says in like Leviticus, all those Old Testament feasts and festivals.
Well, aren't
Shoot
we
it my
called
way.
to-
I'd love to read it because.
But aren't we called to assemble?
Yes, but I'm saying though, my point on that is that's something you do every day. You can do it first day, second day, third day, any day of the week. But the Old Testament, they had a daily sacrifice, and they went to the synagogue or to the temple any time of the week. And if you read what Jesus went to the temple every day
Yeah.
Right.
and taught in there, it doesn't specify. And that was another thing that the Seventh-day Adventist pastor was trying to tell me was like, see right here, it says Jesus went on the Sabbath. And it's like, so I'm going to go on the Sabbath and worship. I'm like, that's great, but it also says over here, he went every day.
Yes.
You're going to go to church every day? It's like,
He
no,
did.
you're not.
He
So,
did.
all right, well, okay, so the next point would be, and to that end, we are to prepare our hearts with such foresight, diligence, and moderation to dispose and seasonably dispatch our worldly business, that we may be the more free and fit for the duties of that day.
Mhm.
Which I think that's what Isaiah 58 was basically saying
Mhm.
about you. Okay, so question 118. Why is the charge of keeping the Sabbath more specially directed to governors of families and other superiors? When we get to next week, we're going to talk about the fifth commandment, which is to honor your father and mother, and we're going to go all over superiors and inferiors and equals. Has anybody ever studied that? Something that is completely lost in the church today. But by superior, like if I'm an employee and I have an employer, my employer is my superior and I am the inferior.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't mean
Yes.
I am a lesser person than that person. That's just talking
Yeah, it's
about
just
Right.
the status.
Yeah,
So when we're
yeah.
talking about superiors,
That's why they call her mother superior.
right? Exactly. Not because she's.
Oh, she's far more blessed, you know that.
Well, I'm actually looking forward to the fifth commandment next week because this inferior, superior, equals.
It's the-
How do children supposed to talk to adults? How do adults talk to children? How do adults talk to each other? How does everybody treat each other? that is lost in our society. I don't know about you guys, but
Oh, boy.
Well, you know,
children think they're
it can
adults,
be-
adults think they're
it can be
children.
lost if you allow it to be lost.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
But the Westminster larger catechism actually teaches this, and it's not even being taught anymore
Yeah.
nowadays.
But
But a superior,
Yeah,
I am a superior because I'm a father.
yeah.
So I'm not an employer or a,
Okay.
Exactly.
he's an inferior because he's my son.
And yeah, he's certainly not a subordinate. I mean,
Right,
son,
exactly.
Totally different
Yeah.
picture
That's-
from the
That
government
was not a good
as far as
word.
governors of families and then
Right,
superiors. and
because we're
inferiors.
talking about governors of families.
Right,
Yes.
And so to say my son's a subordinate sounds weird to me. But I know what you mean.
Where did they come up with this question? Why is the charge of keeping the Sabbath more specifically directed?
Well, because you're the ones with the power and the influence. That's
Well,
kind of
yeah.
that's kind of a,
Yeah,
I don't know, call it rhetorical
No
question.
brainer.
Because you know what? If you're a governor of a family, or you're an employee, or whether you're a superior, whatever, that means you have influence over others, and that influence should be positive.
Right.
In other words,
Well, the
it's not
Webster-
directed towards the government,
The
Like-
Webster Dictionary
Congress.
says that inferior is just a lower in station, rank, degree, or grade, often followed by, she says an adjective, a rank inferior to colonel,
Right.
Uh-huh, right.
I always thought the military used this, but
lower in position. is-
My
No,
dad
you
used to
use
use
superior
this. My
officer.
dad used to
Right.
use it in the Navy. He's my superior.
Right.
Right. My dad ran the whole,
Yeah.
everybody was his inferior.
okay, so the charge of keeping the Sabbath is directed towards governors of families and other superiors because they are bound not only to keep it themselves, but to see that it is observed by all those under their charge. I think this one right here is the most
Yeah.
concise, because they are the ones prone oftentimes to hinder them by employments of their own.
That's right.
The ones in charge are always telling the ones below to do the stuff, and they're the ones that are supposed to keep that from happening. So now we're gonna go into the lists of sins that the Puritans love to throw out there. Question 119, what are the sins forbidden in the fourth commandment? The sins forbidden in the fourth commandment are all omission, so there's the omission and commission, always found in all the commandments, of the duties required, careless, negligent, unprofitable performing of them and being weary of them, all profaning the day by idleness and doing that which is in itself sinful, and by all needless words and thoughts about our worldly employment and recreations.
Well,
Okay, so now we're going to go into what's the reasons annexed to the fourth commandment and more to enforce it. In other words, why are we enforcing it? What's the purpose of it? The reasons
well,
are,
that says something totally different. It says reserving one for himself in these words. God allowing us 6 days a week. So that's saying that God allows 6 days a week, and the seventh are our own affairs. Are reserving but one for himself in these words.
did it just repeat what it said before?
Yes, it did.
Okay,
Yeah, that's the,
Mhm.
I just
Commandment.
chopped that right out of their answer.
yeah, it's
so-
a commandment, so, yeah.
Next. Okay, question 121. Why is the word remember set in the beginning of the fourth commandment? The word remember is set in the beginning of the fourth commandment because of the great benefit of remembering it, we being thereby helped in our preparation to keep it, and in keeping it better to keep all the rest of the commandments and to continue a thankful remembrance of the two great benefits of creation and redemption. So,
That's true.
we are very ready to forget it.
Yep, I thought
So
it was
it's-
funny. That's true.
Good reminder to keep us from forgetting, which I think is the main point is to keep doing it so that we don't forget it, of why God made all those festivals and stuff for the Jewish people in the first place, to look forward to Christ coming. So they didn't lose that. That it cometh but once in 7 days, and many worldly businesses come between, and too often take off our minds from thinking of it.
That's today.
That's today.
And that Satan with his instruments much labor to blot out the glory and even the memory of it, to bring in all irreligion and impiety. I like the way they put this though, irreligion and impiety. Piety is something that has always been in Christianity.
Piety of the church, that was one of the things I learned in the 7 things that I had to remember.
Well, piety is like right out of Plato and Socrates. They talk about piety all the time. Which I think is why a lot of the Greeks liked Christianity, because Christianity was very much about piety and living a life that's not immoral.
Yeah.
So, I guess we're done with that. Next,
Oh, you gotta go.
a huge
There we
list.
go.